This is, okay, now we know we're recording. So this is a meeting of the Board of Trustees of Fast Forward Charter High School. It's Tuesday, April 13th, and we're about, looks like 4:05 p.m. Let's begin. First of all, I'm Rich West, Board President. Let's go through the ones who are online first, and then we'll have you folks who are in person offer your names and affiliations. So let's start with Ryan, and then we'll go to Lynn, and then we'll go back to the school.
Ryan Marchant, Business Manager.
Lynn Hobbs, Board Member.
Okay, now we're back to the school.
Alex Garrett, Vice Principal.
Jill Lowe, Principal.
Frank Stewart, Logan City School Board and Ridgeline Technical College.
And Kim Penman, parent member.
Wonderful. So I can see everybody but Alex.
Yeah, I'm behind the computer, sorry.
That's okay. Disembodied voices don't make me uncomfortable, at least during the daylight. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got a financial report by Ryan, and this requires action. So we're going to have to vote on approving the financial report. Is that correct, Ryan?
Well, actually, you can if you want. It doesn't require it's just for informational purposes only. Usually what we do is we require an approval of our audit at the end of the year, but you can accept the financial report. We never have in the past, and we've been doing this for a long time. So I guess I would leave that up to the board if you want to accept it or not, but it's really just for informational purposes.
Well, I was just reading that it on our agenda, it says action is required on this item.
Yeah, we don't need action on this. In fact, hopefully you guys received this earlier this morning, so you kind of take a look through it. Again, I know we're kind of pushed for time on some areas, but we definitely want to talk about things that people want to talk about. It's just kind of referring back to some of our previous board reports and some of the meetings that we've had in the past. It's pretty much business as usual at Fast Forward. It's doing really well, and we've improved our cash positions in the last quarter since we met. Our revenues are exceeding our budgets. Our expenses are also exceeding our budgets, but that's because with so many additional students, we've just had to hire additional people. So on the revenue side, we won't go through this line by line, but essentially the revenue side is above where we're projected by about a little over $1 million, 1.1. But our expenses are also above our projected budget by about 800,000. Let's see. No, that's our net income's over 800,000, but our expenses have gone over it by about 200,000. Excuse me, check that. So, again, we do have a net income right now at this point in the year of about 1.1, almost $1.2 million that we've had, and I think we'll just continue to add to that a little bit as the school year continues to go on. So again, we're in a good cash position. We are picking up some additional, we've talked about a lot of different areas where we need to spend some funds, and we're kind of working through that. I've been working with, since we last met, and we've had some preliminary meetings. I've met with Cache Valley Bank, or at least had exchanged a couple emails with them. Bruce Rigby over at Cache, and we're kind of, it's with all of the stuff that's going on with the banking, it's a little bit more of a touch and go situation with borrowing from the banks for things right now, but we're kind of working through that. So he has mentioned that they do want to do this deal, but they're working through some issues on their end. But I think that we should be clear for that if we want to continue with some of the projects that Jill, Alex, I, and Lynn was there in that meeting as well, talked about doing kind of some additional things that would require, we'd use some of our cash for that, as well as borrow some funds from a bank. But like I said, I think that we're pretty well capitalized in areas that we need to be. There are some other areas that there's constantly things coming up that we can use this cash for, but right now, we're just kind of building that, looking forward to that day when we can deploy some of that into areas that we feel are valuable for us. So, if you, let's see, Alex, if you want to scroll down to just the, you can go past the expense side there. They can kind of look at that when they want to. Let's just go to the slide that has there you go. So you can kind of see our cash balances over the last 6 months, kind of how we've built that. That's reflected in our net income number that we just talked about, and then our October 1 head count that we have here, just over the last several years, which is in a strong position. You can see, I mean, you can see exactly why our cash is growing, and that's simply because we've gone from 260 students to 450 essentially. So that tells the story there. And then you can kind of just scroll through the rest of the report, and it's the profit. It's just the kind of the details behind it. You can just keep going. It's got the balance sheet, and then it has the income statement that's behind that as well, and then it has some P&L by class, and then it has our allotment memo there at the very end. So it's about an 18-page report, which is typical. You can kind of look through it and kind of see areas that where we're spending those funds. These financials are not audited. Of course, we don't have our audit on these financials until August of 2023. And then we'll have the final report for this sometime in December of 23. We'll talk about it in our January of 24 meeting or something like that. But I just wanted to give that to you. Again, I think our board, there's no new board members here, and I think they're aware of where we are currently financially. So I leave that for you. And then I would open it up to any questions that you might have.
So Ryan, you indicated that revenues are up because enrollment is up. This is our enrollment is up significantly,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe this will come out in the principal's report. But how are we doing? I mean, how do we manage? That's a lot of additional students that has to come at additional expense, and the building has to be bulging.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, Jill and Alex can refer to that. I'd probably defer to Jill, but kind of the way we're doing our schedule. Jill, do you want to address that?
Yeah, could you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
So we have with our schedule, I think we talked about this a couple months ago when we met. We had a quite large waiting list of over 60 students. And with our split schedule that we have right now, we couldn't even get them all in for that. So we opened up an evening schedule for students and it's not really evening, it's 3:30 to 6:30. And we've been able to help additional students during that time. So basically that group of, 450 students is split over our 3 sessions during the day. Yeah, we have about 50 plus online students.
Well, it's a great way to manage things. Is there anything in the financial report, Ryan, that would cause you to be concerned? Anything we should be looking at in the future as that we need to be addressing an emerging challenge, problems, anything like that?
I can't think of any right off the top of my head. I think we've talked about some of these in our past meeting. Perhaps, just some of the expansion, if we want to do that. We've talked about doing a steel building in the back, but that's something that we can look forward to, just kind of the expansion of it. I think one other thing that maybe we have talked about in the past also is that the reason that we're able to do this many students in the manner that we are at Fast Forward is because the state has essentially, since COVID came, they've done away with the 990 seat hours, which is very beneficial for us, of course, and we've made that unique with our school where we feel like we can still put out a good educational product. And I know Jill feels the same way, where we're having a lot of kids that are just probably being just as successful as they were if they were coming to school, because we have a lot of resources that are built around them. And like I said, that's why our hiring number and our labor number is probably a little bit higher, because we have to service these students to the best that we can. But the way that I understand it, Alex, is that the State Board of Education just kind of keeps kicking that issue down the road. And I'm not aware of them having any more conversations, other than they're going to bring it up in 2025 or something like that. So that's maybe something to look to. How would we service 50 students in that facility if the 990-hour seat time came back? That's probably a discussion to be had at some point. And it's anybody's guess as to what the state board's going to do as far as that issue go. Alex, do you want to talk up to that for a minute?
So they met in the December board meeting for the state. They met to vote on it, but they pushed off the vote till August 2023. And that will decide for 2025 school year whether that requirement comes back. So for 2024, the same type of waiver is still in place, and they'll vote this August for 2025. So,
Yeah. So maybe that's one area that that's just, and Alex is good at following that, and he kind of has a pretty good idea, and he probably has a pretty good sense of where the board will vote on that, except, we just never know how that's going to turn out. But that's maybe one issue. Anything else, Rich, or that's?
Well, let me just pose that question to the rest of the board. Any other questions, concerns, comments you'd like to make about the financial report?
Just a question, because of my ignorance of what we do here for school lunch, but how do we handle that when we had such a large increase of students? And is that primarily the first 2 blocks that are involved in school lunch, and is that reimbursed at all?
So, for those of you that don't know, let me just explain how our school lunch program works. And we purchase our school lunch through Mount Logan Middle School. And so they prepare our lunch, and then we have a food nutritional person here on staff that picks it up, brings it over here, serves it. And we have a common lunch period or lunch time of about 40 minutes, where between the first session and the second session, they can all come at the same time to eat. The kids that come later, we actually have lunches from that we box up, basically leftovers. Is that a way to say it, Alex? Alex helps us with our lunch program. Anyway, and the students that are here from 3:30 to 6:30 have access to those meals in the evening. So
everybody essentially has.
Yeah. So
I guess leftovers sounds better than repurposed lunches.
yeah.
yes. Yes.
And
Do you guys hear Alex? The evening kids have access to breakfast for the next morning. They can take with them for the next morning. So
Excellent. Sounds like everybody's taking care of it.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks, Frank, for seeking clarification. That's helpful information for all of us. Any other questions? All right, so the next action that we'll be taking on the finances will be when?
Well, a good question. The next action we'll take on finances will be when we approve our final budget, probably in our June board meeting. We'll bring one more final budget in, and then that'll also include that will be our final budget for FY23, and then we will, in that same meeting, approve our proposed budget for FY24. So that'll be the next time. Well, and I don't see anything between now and then, but I think according to our schedule, what we've always had, those will be the next 2 items that we'll vote on for financials.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, you want to talk about financial risk assessment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is, the state auditor requires us to fill this out every year, and we have to upload it to their website, but we also have to, one of the requirements, and of course, we want you guys to know also that, we've talked about this in the past. You guys maybe remember, we've done this in a board meeting for the last several years, but kind of our risk assessment that we have at the school, and a lot of these have been the same over the years. And so, I just want you to know kind of our overall score, first of all, is 325 out of 395. So that puts us obviously in kind of, you can see at the top there, the kind of the low area where it's 316 to 355. So again, we try to put as many, you can kind of look through those and see how we on the rubric and see how we score on that, and some things that we're missing, some things that we're doing. I think the big thing for us as a small organization is it's as a district, you'd probably expect to check every one of these boxes just simply because you have more resources and you'd have more people to be able to plug in those positions. But for us, it's just making sure that we have separations of duties is probably one of the big ones that we've kind of really worked on. Whereas when we first began in Fast Forward, I mean, I was probably a little naive to how we needed to have segregation of duties, but since we build those in, where I'm not doing so much of that, not just the financial dollar just doesn't start and end here, which is just not a good thing to do, right? But we were such a small organization with such a small budget, we just kind of did that. But over the years, we've kind of segregated those duties, and we have someone, Kristen up in Logan, that does a lot of the books. I think she does all the bills and stuff like that, and so we're able to kind of check on each other and also just kind of be a counterbalance for one another, which is really helpful. So those are kind of the things that we need to have. We have, you can look through the questions 1 through 9, some of the things that we've kind of done. We've kind of promoted a fraud hotline, which we basically just promote the State Board of Education's. We do have a formal audit committee, and I think that's one thing that we probably need to meet a little bit more. I know Lynn's on that. Maybe for our next meeting, I know the last couple we've talked about this, but really, I think maybe what I'll do is send out an invitation to just meet before, and then we can actually review the financial statements, and then we can say, when we bring it to the full board, we can just say, look, we've talked about this in the audit committee, and then they can raise any concerns that they might have, and we can maybe get a better understanding there. So anyway, this is just something that, like I mentioned, we have to fill out, and we upload it to the state auditor. I want you guys to be aware of things that we have. We do have a credit card. Again, it's reconciled every month, and there are procedures there with, if anybody wants, we only have one credit card. And if you want to purchase anything on it, you have to get Jill's permission on a sheet that's pre-approved. It's a pre-approval form. And then you have to bring that back with the receipts when you bring back the card, so that we have that, so that we can, and then the bank, the credit card's reconciled every month, and then Jill signs off on that reconciliation. So those are just some areas of, maybe hot buttons. If you had a credit card, you definitely want to know what was the control on that. We don't really have a lot of student fees, so there's not a lot of cash coming in and out. In fact, there's probably very, very little, just because of our student fees and the kind of what we've done with that, which has been really helpful with a lot of kids. Our school doesn't charge a student fee, which has been nice. So anyway, any questions on any of this? Or, again, this is just kind of for information purposes, to let you know that we're thinking through these things. Also to let you know kind of where we are and where we would score ourselves based upon the questions that the state auditor would have for us. And then, of course, we would upload that to their webpage. So
Ryan, in order to move us from this low category, move us up, what are the actions you would recommend? Are there some that you've indicated that some are probably out of our reach, but are there things we can do and probably to do?
There are. I think that, to get to the 3 55, you know, you'd have to, I think number 4 would probably be number 4 there would probably be the easiest one to do. And that's something we could do as an audit committee function. Our employees and elected officials are required to annually commit to writing to abide by a statement. That's something that would be very simple, actually. And then one additional one, which would be a conflict of interest policy. So really to get to 355, that's a really good question, Rich. We would need to do number 4 and then number 2A, which we could do in the same, and that would get us to 355.
Well,
Okay.
I think we should do that.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that. What does Logan School Board have you guys do in that? Well, I mean, I'm just curious what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm not aware in the 5 years that I've been on the board that we've been asked to actually sign anything that is an ethical behavior. I mean, clearly when we're sworn in, that's part of our statement.
Huh.
But I think because of that, that's just the assumption is that that's the way we're going to act. And then, of course, you know, we have the consistent master board training, and just the rules of conduct as far as how a board should operate. So
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of assumptions with that for the training, but no signing the letter per se.
Yeah.
No, I know when I was on board, I don't remember ever signing anything to that effect. But like you just mentioned, you know, the classes you're required to take and everything, I think would probably fulfill that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. So what would the board's, I just want to, before we act on this, what's the board's appetite on doing something like that? I mean,
Well,
kind of going off what you guys are saying, I know that everybody's acting ethically. I mean, so you're telling me if, because we sign a piece of paper, we're all of a sudden going to write, you know, everybody's going to be ethical just because they put their name on a piece of paper. I mean, it's kind of silly if you think about it, but on the other hand, it's something, I think the point of it is that you're thinking about it, I guess. So I don't know if it's something that we just need to discuss annually without signing and say, look, this is top of mind and this is something that we just kind of are aware of, or, I mean, I don't know. How does the board feel about that?
Any
That's probably
comment?
why we've never brought something before in the past, because it seems.
Well, what is the state expecting to be the evidence or a standard that reflects that or a criterion that this standard has been met or achieved?
Well, according to this, I think it is annual in writing to abide by a statement of ethical behavior. So if we had if we came out with a statement and we could look up some, it could be a paragraph and say, you know, fast forward board member, you know, Rich West commits to that ethical, and then have you sign underneath it. Would that all of a sudden, would that be in compliance then? So I guess I could do some research on that. I know a conflict of interest would just be a simple, we could adopt a policy, and then we could also maybe just in that same policy that we adopted and everybody agreed upon, we could also maybe handle number 4 so that we could check that. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Maybe that's what we do is just simply adopt 2 additional policies.
I think that's
Well,
a
Ryan,
fairly
don't we have in our,
Yeah, go ahead, Jill.
I was just gonna say, I think in our bylaws, Ryan, we have a lot of, I think we have kind of some
I'm sure we
ethical
do.
statements.
I'm sure.
So that's
And it's
what,
probably been part of your training with low. And I mean, the truth is we probably are doing this on some level. But I think if we just did one policy that could be a 2 paragraphs to cover number 4 and number 2A, which would talk about conflict of interests and also,
ethical behavior.
yeah, I think it's the same thing. Or,
So-
well,
So
close enough.
I'm not opposed to having an item on maybe the first board meeting of every year, reviewing the policies, just
Yeah.
asking board members to go through the policy manual, and then if we make it a formal item on the agenda and everybody's informed, I don't know that it makes a difference if we sign a paper.
Yeah.
If we have on record that these items have been discussed in our board meetings and that we were present and that we concurred, that seems to me to be sufficient evidence. But Frank, you and Lynn, who have had recent experience on our local board, on Logan City's board, if you think that's adequate, then I'm okay with that.
I think a statement like that, because you had that one thing and it'd take care of almost 3 areas.
Yeah.
I just think your idea of the first of the year, first of the school year, we have something like that, a policy, and we all agree to it or even sign something would be pretty simple to do.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it. It may be more symbolic than anything else, but I don't think there's any particular reason. These look like sort of performative functions that if we do this, whether we are more legitimate or not, it certainly gives the impression that we're paying attention. And
Yeah, I think that's probably more than anything. So,
Yeah.
okay, maybe why don't I look and see if I can find something that we can kind of write in a couple paragraphs that would be to the statement of ethical behavior and also for the conflict of interest.
okay.
Okay, I'll look at that. Yep.
All right, this item doesn't require any action.
No.
Either, but we're empowering you to go forward and make us look
Okay.
even.
Okay.
Alex, this is our only action item on today's agenda, I believe.
Exciting.
Perfect. Yes, it's a great subject that we get to talk about real quick. So, back on March, can you guys hear me okay? I'm a little away from the mic, but. Okay. So back on March 27th, I met with kind of the sex ed curriculum review committee, which consisted of Kersey Hatton, Martha Garrity, and Andrea Bolin. Kersey and Martha are our health and PE teachers here at the school, and Andrea is a parent representative. And we went through all of you can see this document's 56 pages. We went through every single slideshow, went through all the little clips that were shown, if there were clips, reviewed, just whatever they taught in the sex ed unit here at Fast Forward. And then I kind of just gave the summary of how it was broken down, as well as attached the PDFs of those lectures of the presentations. So hopefully you guys had time to review those. On the second page, I'm just going to jump forward real quick too. So, the third page was the actual subject or the topics covered within the curriculum. And then Kersey and Martha, the sub bullets are kind of the things that they talked about within that. And those all fall under the content standards that are given by the state. And this review is specific because Kersey and Martha have created their own curriculum with USB influence, but they aren't teaching the USB-E's direct curriculum. So they didn't download, USB-E's PowerPoints and assignments. They created this with the influence. So that's why we're reviewing this now, is because it was their own creation rather than directly approved by the state. So if you scroll through that, and if you have any questions on that, I can answer them as best I can. Within this part of the review, we have to discuss like who the guest speakers are that come in. So we have Bethany Ballady, and there's a new coordinator. Her name's Ashley. I don't have her last name. They come in, they're part of the CAPS education. They come into the school and do some trainings in her health class. And then the wife of one of our other teachers, she's an OBGYN, and she comes in and talks about when they're talking about the different, oh man, I don't know the right words. Let's see if this helps. The physiology of the sex systems. So she comes in and helps teach that portion of it as well. And then Emily has a website too that shows her credentials and things like that. So here at the bottom, just the summary coming from this review committee. We went through everything. We made sure it was aligned with each content standard. And it's just our suggestion as the committee that you guys have, as the Board of Trustees, approve this curriculum. We get this for the next 2 years, and then we would have to reapprove in 2025. So that's the curriculum part. And then there is on the second page, every year we have to go over just some trends that are within our local district. So we're in the Bear River district up here. And so that's the little blurb. So some of the things we have to color are pornography complaints or similar instances reported within the jurisdiction of our local school board, as well as the data here for percentage of teen pregnancies, self-report or sexual abuse of children, and then the number of adolescents who reported having sexually transmitted disease within the Bear River district. Now, this information to track down was a little bit harder than I kind of anticipated it was. Me and Jill spent a portion of the day scouring some state websites to try and get the best data for us. So some of it we did have to generalize to Utah as a whole because there wasn't specific data for our district or even our county. So for somebody say have something. Okay, so percentage of teen pregnancies reported within Utah, 10% of the total, and we didn't have the total number of the teen pregnancies for 2021 to 2022, but 10% of those pregnancies happened within the Bear River district. Then for the self-reported child abuse cases within, or for 2021, there were 8 male youth and then 21 female youth that reported being sexually abused. And again, this was self-reported cases. So they took it to the cops, they took it to an advocate agency, and then it was reported to the police. These are just the self-reported. And then number of adolescents who reported contracting a sexually transmitted disease. This was again for the entire state, and the data was from 2020, was the most recent data. So they classified a youth as 15 to 19. So males, there were 431 cases per 100,000 in a population. And then for females, 15 to 19, it was 1,478 per 100,000 in the population. And then the final one, within the last school year, we've only had 2 complaints or similar instances regarding pornography within our last school year. So I think that was pretty great. Any questions about either the data or the curriculum itself?
So the comment that you made that our folks are not using the USBE approved curriculum, they're using something they've developed themselves. Do you have a rationale or an explanation why that is, why they're doing that?
So when Kersey first started here, she did start with using what USB provided. And I think in like my discussions with her, she felt just because of our population here, she wanted to tweak it to be more of what they were asking, or topics that she thought would be more applicable within their life. So all of the curriculum is the same topics that you would see. She's just developed and taken hers and maybe expanded on a part that USBE didn't expand upon, but is still within the content standards and within the administrative rules given by USBE. So I think she's just, both her and Martha have had those conversations of, you know, let's hit this a little bit harder, let's influence, or yeah, based off the needs of the kids.
This is, I just don't want to put our school or faculty in a position where we are taking action that others might think unwise, or I want to make sure that we are behaving responsibly, especially in this area. So
yeah. Yep, and within that too, so every year, go ahead, Rich, sorry.
Just help me feel comfortable. That's the
So perfect, no worries. So every year, Jill sits down with Kersey. There's this an assurance statement that we provide to the state. And one of the options, there's like 4 different options of how teachers can create or use their curriculum. And one of the options is this, where it is, and the biggest thing is to know that all of what Kersey and Martha teach is connected back to the content standards of USBE. Nothing that they teach goes outside of that. Yeah, so when I'm saying they've created their own, it's just in the way that they've structured their lessons and the way they've structured their content, but they're using the approved content, but just not the exact USBE document, if that makes sense. So everything is aligned to the content.
And Rich, as I sit down with Kersey every May, I feel very comfortable in signing our assurance on this. Nothing's out of the ordinary. Nothing would make me uncomfortable having to defend in any kind of a situation. I don't know if that helps, but.
well, it gives me a lot more confidence. I just I want to stay. Let's see. How do I want to say this? I want to be, and I would like us to be responsible in addressing reasonable community standards while being responsible professionals in ensuring that our students have accurate and useful information. Maybe I've said all of the right things.
Yeah, that sounded great. And as I sat through and we literally went slide by slide, assignment by assignment, like there wasn't anything that was stood out to me as being out of line. And they had their stuff there that we were able to look at each content. The parent was in full support as well. So
Okay. I have a question on the pornography. How is that found? Is that either if they did it on their home computers, school computers, or how was that found and how is that reported?
So it can come in a number of different ways. These were all just reports from individuals.
Right.
But every student computer, every Chromebook has a reporting software called GoGuardian that tracks all the sites a student visits. It will give me notifications if a student is looking at things they shouldn't, or if it's keywords that aren't necessarily banned, but it's a kid looking for maybe loopholes in the blocking software, or some other things. So these ones, the 2 for this year were reported from either a student, a parent, a teacher, in that way.
They're all school computers. I don't think we've ever had.
Yes, and so that's a good point too that Jill made. So
It's been reported.
these have been either within the school computer or within the school itself. Nothing
Okay.
like my student is at home using a personal computer to
Yeah.
try and access pornography.
All right.
Nothing within that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Alex.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions?
No.
Okay, this requires a vote to approve this curriculum, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Have we a motion?
This is Kim. I
Oh.
can motion to approve sex education curriculum.
Thank you, Kim. A second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Lynn. Any further question, any further? Any need for any additional questions answered on this? Okay, I will place then the motion before us. Those in favor of the motion make some indication. Those of you in the room, I guess you can raise your, I guess we can all raise our hand except for Lynn's gonna have to say something. So those in favor? Okay,
Aye.
I don't see any opposed. So this motion passes. And we now have an approved sex education curriculum. Okay, Jill?
Okay.
I hope I didn't, before you get started, I hope I didn't treat that last item in too much of a cavalier fashion, but certain issues, I just assume, you know, if we're on board and we can move forward, that's great. I didn't want to go through every page of that, by the way.
That's why I did it for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alex has done that kind of work. Okay, so I just wanted to give everyone an update. You'll get a formal invitation, but graduation this year is on Wednesday, May 24th at 2 p.m. And everyone, we're going to be graduating in a different location because of the number of graduates we have. So our graduation this year will be in the Danes Conference Hall. Or Concert Hall, sorry. I think that's what the name of it is. Where we used to have it years ago before they redid it. So this should seat more people.
Yeah, it doesn't
More room
look
for
like
families.
it used to.
No, not even, yeah, not at all. So yeah, May 24th at 2 p.m. I will send out more information on parking and all that good stuff. Please come if you can. So also on Monday, May 22nd, we are doing a graduate get together. It's going to be kind of a family picnic down at the fairgrounds on the grass. There's going to be some music going on, and we are going to take a minute and recognize and hand out some awards and achievements to our outstanding graduates. So if you want to come down, get some barbecue, I think is what we're having. Down at the
time?
fairgrounds from 4 to 6 p.m.
Great.
You know what, during the fair where they have the music and whatnot, it'll be just in that same area. So
Great.
it'll be a good luncheon down there. So it'll be, that's the first time we've done something like this, and hopefully it'll work out good. So yeah, please come if you can. What?
It might still be flooded.
I know. Right. So this year, we have 101 seniors and 26 juniors that are expected to graduate. So we've got a big group of them. Yeah. So after graduation, after school's out, we will start our summer school program May 30th, and it will go until June 16th. So it's about 3 weeks of summer school to help our students that need credit recovery. So anyway, Oh, and yep, Alex brought up another item. We are currently starting into our accreditation for next year, which looks to be kind of overwhelming. This new company that is taking over accreditation, Cognia. It looks like it's going to be a little more thorough than the last one. So we've gotten started with that. I think that's about it. And that will be big. That will be kind of a year-long process for
Yeah,
our
how
school.
often do you have to be certified?
Every 5 years.
5, like-
Yep.
like this, is,
Yeah.
but-
Yep. So I felt like we just did it like 2 years ago, but I guess we
Yeah,
didn't.
you're ready for it,
Yeah.
that's the last
Yeah, yeah.
hour.
Anyway,
Good.
so those are kind of the updates I've got. Anybody have questions or did I miss anything else?
No.
Been
Well, it
impressed
sounds
by
great.
your recovery work. That was very successful. I think you reported out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Implements for that.
Yeah, we had a directors meeting, Ryan and I did Monday or last week, I can't remember. Oh, last week was spring break, so it was Monday. And they took some time and talked about, competency-based learning. And it was so refreshing to hear, more people thinking a little differently and outside the box. So yeah, it was exciting to hear on the state level. So anyway,
Well,
that's all I've got.
well, that's wonderful. That's great. When should we have our next meeting?
Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June 1st. If that works for everyone. Does
Okay,
that work, Ryan? Is that going to give us enough
Yeah.
time to do your financial stuff? Okay.
I'm just looking here at I think so. I think I can, because we don't have that's our final meeting of the year, right, Joe?
Yeah, yes. And then we usually meet in August before
Yeah.
school starts.
Yeah. I should have everything ready to go by then. Yeah, you bet. I should have our budgets and we should have everything that we need by then. So, I think June 1st should be fine.
okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's all I
Okay,
have.
since we've completed the agenda, I would like to thank all of you for your diligent efforts on behalf of the students and the school, Fast Forward Charter High School, fulfilling an important role and function in our community. And I really appreciate what our faculty and staff, administration are doing. And it's a big challenge, and you're doing well. And we all appreciate all of the efforts, and I appreciate the efforts of the board to provide some oversight for this important activity. Well, I guess it's time to declare this a finished meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.